Good afternoon, Year 4. Welcome to History Lesson today. Can you pause the video and write today's date and learning objective? Okay, now today we're going to be exploring different interpretations of Boudicca. Before we do, let's just remind ourselves about what we learnt last week about Queen Boudicca. So I'd like you to go through each of these statements and decide if you think they're true or false. I'm going to read them to you now. Boudicca was the queen of the Iceni tribe. Is that true or is it false? After her husband died, the Romans broke their promise to share his land with Boudicca. Is that true or false? Boudicca and her army burnt Bristol to the ground. Do you think that's true or false? Boudicca's army outnumbered the Roman army 20-1. And finally, Boudicca's army defeated the Romans. Okay, let's go through those answers now. I'm going to click my pen. Boudicca was queen of the Iceni tribe, and so that is true. We're going to put a T next to that one. After her husband died, the Romans broke their promise to share his land with Boudicca. That is true. Remember, she was due to get half of his land and the Romans the other half, but they decided to take all of the land instead. Boudicca and her army burnt Bristol to the ground. Well, she did burn a couple of cities to the ground. She burnt Colchester, or a town Colchester, and she went to London. She burnt there as well, but she didn't go to Bristol, so that is false. Boudicca's army did outnumber the Roman army 20-1. They were a much bigger army. Well, the army of the Romans, the legionnaires, were very well trained and professional, weren't they? And finally, the last one isn't not correct. It is false. Boudicca, sadly, was defeated by the Romans. Okay. Now, today we're going to be thinking about different interpretations of Boudicca. We're going to be looking at picture interpretations, some of them photographs, some of them paintings, and others, as you can see here on this one, is made from glass. In each one of these interpretations, we can see what Boudicca looked like, or certainly what someone's opinion of Boudicca or what they think she might have looked like. We also can really see what people thought of Boudicca from these interpretations. So I'd like you to pause the video now, and I'd like you to look carefully at each of these interpretations. What do you think Boudicca is like in each interpretation? And what do you think the opinion of the person who created the interpretation is of Boudicca? Let's look at picture A. Now in this interpretation we can see Boudicca standing in front of her army of soldiers. You can see her chariot horses behind her. You can see she's got her spear in her hand. She's wearing those brightly coloured clothes that Celts like to wear. Her hair's long and flowing behind her, and she looks quite determined, doesn't she? Quite stern, but powerful in not too an aggressive way here. I think the person who painted this really respected and admired Boudicca, and they wanted to show that in their interpretation. Interpretation B again shows Boudicca as a fighter, as a warrior queen. Here we can see she looks a little bit more dirty. It's a bit more realistic, isn't it? It looks like she's actually been fighting. This interpretation comes from a film, and it looks quite realistic. Again, I think the person who created this wanted to show that Boudicca was quite a powerful woman. Picture C is actually very different. Look at Boudicca here. This is in a stained glass window. Now, this is probably from a church or maybe from a castle. And in this interpretation, they've shown Boudicca as very calm and serene. Again, they've shown her with her spear, and you can see that she has a crown on. They wanted to show her as regal and peaceful, but calm as well. I think they really have a good opinion of Boudicca in this picture. They think she's very important, so much so they've put her in a window. This final interpretation is quite different. Here we can see Boudicca dress a little bit like a Roman or a Greek goddess. And here she has her arm around a young girl, and there's another young girl behind her. I think they must be her daughters, and she looks very caring of them. She's looking after them. But she's also busy, isn't she? She's busy talking to the people here that are much lower to her. I think the person who created this interpretation wanted to show her power over other people. She does look powerful here, doesn't she? She looks very commanding. And look, they've given her a Roman helmet to show that she was a warrior. She's almost looking a little bit like a goddess in this picture. These interpretations are so different that I'm left thinking, what did Boudicca really look like? And I'd like to find out today. Luckily, I'm able to go to a historian who wrote about Boudicca. This historian was a Roman historian, and his name is Dio Cassius, and here's a picture of a statue of him. He wrote lots of books about the history of Rome. He really researched Roman history and he wrote about it. However, he was quite biased because he was Roman himself, and so he always makes Rome look good. Let's read what he wrote about Boudicca. He said this: "She was huge of frame, terrifying of aspect, and with a harsh voice. A great mass of bright red hair fell to her knees. She wore a great twisted golden necklace and a tunic of many colours, over which was a thick mantle fastened by a brooch. Now she grasped a spear to strike fear into all who watched her." Well, this is interesting. It tells us lots of fact about her, doesn't it? It tells us lots of things. He says this, doesn't he? She's huge of frame. She's terrifying of aspect, with a harsh voice and a great mass of red hair that goes all the way down to her knees. She wears a golden necklace and she has a tunic on that is colourful, with a thick mantle over the top, fastened with a brooch. She has a spear in her hand, and he says this as well, to strike fear into all who watched her. Pause the video now and have a think. What do you think Dio Cassius's opinion of Boudicca is? I think his opinion was that he wanted to show her as quite a terrifying, scary individual. He probably wanted to show the people back in Rome that she wasn't very ladylike. Remember, women in Rome had no power and they couldn't go out to fight. So he wanted to show that she is quite a different type of woman. Let's just investigate a little bit what these facts mean to us. Let's interpret them in our modern language. So when he says she's huge of frame, what he means is she was very tall. When he says she's got a harsh voice, I think he's trying to say that she shouts quite a lot. When he says she's terrifying of aspect, he's saying she looks scary. Her mass of bright red hair that goes all the way to her knees means that she's got long, quite curly red hair that goes all the way down to her knees. She probably didn't ever cut her hair. And she wears a tunic, which is like a long shirt that would go down to her knees or a bit longer. And over the top of that, she'd wear a thick, sleeveless cloak, which he calls a mantle. She also had on, didn't she, a thick, golden, twisted necklace and brooches, because she was a queen. But there's no mention of a crown, is there? This is what I would like you to do. Your first task today is I'd like you to draw your own interpretation of Boudicca. Show me in your interpretation exactly what she looked like. Use this evidence to help you. I wonder if you can also show me your opinion of Boudicca in your interpretation. Do you think she's somebody who's powerful, strong, courageous, or do you think she's someone who's a little bit unusual and a bit maybe weird for a woman? What's your opinion? Show it in your interpretation. So I'd like you to pause the video now and have a go at that. Okay. I can't wait to see your interpretations. I'd like you to take a picture of them today and post them on Classroom Dojo. Now, for an extra challenge, I'd like you to be historians today, and I'd like you to look at these two different interpretations of Boudicca. First of all, I'd like you to answer this question. What are the main differences in the way Boudicca is shown in the two pictures? How is this picture different to this picture? How would you summarise what Boudicca is like in this picture compared to this picture? And for an extra challenge, and this is quite a challenging question, Year 4, why don't both pictures show her looking the same? Pause the video now and have a go at that. Well done. Okay, let's just talk through the differences between these two pictures. We can see they are very different. The two women in the picture look quite dissimilar to each other. In this picture here, you can see she's wearing her mantle, she's got a colourful tunic on, and she's got long flowing red hair, and you can see her brooch and a twisted golden necklace. So that looks very similar to what the historian said about her. But look, in her hand, she has no spear, and her face looks very calm, kind, and peaceful. This one's quite different. Again, she has got her cloak on, and this time her mantle is slightly different. It's not quite as colourful. Her long red hair is flowing down, but this time it's behind her wildly because she's going into battle. She's grasping her spear. And look at her face here, it's much different. She's probably shouting. Maybe she's ordering her troops to do something. Maybe she's shouting commands at the Romans. This one here is far more warlike. Why don't both pictures show her looking the same? Well, I think the person who made picture A wanted to show Boudicca as being peaceful. They wanted to show the mothering aspect of her, the sort of kind, caring aspect of her. I wonder if they wanted to show that she wasn't always a warrior. I think the person who created A had a really good opinion of Boudicca. Maybe the person who created A was Celtic. B is slightly different. In this one, Boudicca has been shown as warlike. I think the person who wanted to create this wanted to show her as being powerful, strong, terrifying. I think they also like Boudicca, but I think maybe this time they want to really focus on the difference to her to Roman women. Maybe this one was created by a Roman. I really love to read your history writing today, so I'd like you to take a picture of it and upload it onto Dojo. Have a good afternoon, Year 4, and I look forward to seeing you later on.